welcome to Hockenheim. Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Hockenheim for the third meeting of the 2019 Euroformula Open season. We are here at the sometime home of the German Grand Prix, the first time ever in Hockenheim for the Euroformula Open, and this is the second successive race weekend for the drivers. They were on the often damp streets of Po last weekend, having kicked off the season a couple of weeks previous to that at the Paul Ricard circuit. But for now, the Hockenheim circuit, a new challenge for them, as it's myself and Evans, Elliot Wood alongside me, take you through this opening 25-minute qualifying session for the weekend as we have a look there at the car of Billy Munger, who scored a historic victory last Sunday in Po.
Yes, he took a great win in Po, gambled on wet tyres at the very end of the warm-up lap and charged through the field from last place to take not only his first win since his remarkable racing comeback, but his first ever win in single-seaters.
And it was a very fine performance. It was enough to propel him up to 6th in the championship standings. It's Liam Lawson who leads the championship for Team Motorpark. He's the only driver to have won 2 races so far this season, one apiece in Paul Ricard and Po, and therefore he is 6 points clear of his Motorpark teammate Marino Sato, second in the standings, with third in the standings the incredibly consistent Teo Martin Motorsport driver Lucas Dunner, just 2 points adrift of Sato, and Dunner 2 third places, 2 fourths to his credit this season. But so far this weekend, Elliot, the pace setter has been Jack Doohan for the RR Racing team.
Yeah, RR Racing doesn't have recent experience in this circuit, but chose a very good base setup yesterday and had the room to try out new things during the day. In the second session, it was actually his teammate Linus Lundqvist who was fastest by the slightest margin in the final few seconds of the session. In the last session of the day, Doohan struck back, Lundqvist was leading, and then he set the fastest time, well, I think about 10 seconds of the day's free practice to go.
There is a glimpse at Yuki Tsunoda, one of the quartet of Team Motorpark runners, and Yuki actually the only one of them who has not won a race. No, that's my correction. Jim Hanses also hasn't won a race this year, but Yuki Tsunoda has been on the podium twice, second and the third place. He is currently 4th in the standings. They've got 25 minutes to play with, and so at the moment this, as much as anything, is a case of getting a little bit of heat into the Michelin tyre that they all run with, as we have a look at Rui Andrade for the DriveX team. So he accelerates out of the hairpin at the far extremity of the circuit. That's turn 6, and then in towards turn 7. Here's the championship leader, Liam Lawson, another of the Red Bull back drivers. You can tell Lawson apart from teammate Tsunoda because Lawson has got Red Bull on his rear wing, whereas Yuki Tsunoda has got Honda Dream. Otherwise, those two cars look very, very similar indeed.
Yep, and one of the fourth Motorpark car, Marino Sato, has only just come out the pit, so he's got quite a bit of space on track to play with here. In the picture behind Lawson, we did have Linus Lundqvist of RR Racing, and he was hitting the curbs very hard a few seconds ago, which the camera's just caught, so hopefully there's no damage on that car this early into the session.
Yeah, we have seen in some of the other qualifying sessions from the categories racing here this weekend that they are making some pretty big asks of the available track to them, as Lawson picks his way down the back straight towards turn 11. That is the quick right-hander that brings them into the old stadium section here. Then it's on to the Sachs curve at turn 12. That is the very positively cambered left-hand hairpin. You can really take a nice big bite of that before winding through this last couple of corners on towards the end of the lap. And at the moment, the drivers still really getting themselves up to speed. But we were talking off mic a little bit earlier on, Elliot, that yesterday, because this is a new circuit for the teams, actually finding the right base setup was a little bit of a journey.
Yes, it's been very difficult because this circuit has several long straights, but also a section of flowing corners, which is our final sector here. So it's always useful to look at the sector times to tell which teams. And we've seen a slight moment there for Aldo Festante of Teo Martin Motorsport. And Teo Martin was one of the teams that had a very good base setup yesterday morning. They were fastest in the first practice session, but throughout the day they didn't quite get things going perfectly, and it was RR Racing that took the initiative. And they've just gone top until Festante moved past again.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to keep that time. He was well over the track limits. Lucas Dunn, his teammate, though, has slipped through into second. Jack Doohan was third. It's now Nicola Kiergaard, and then it's Tepe Naturi. So it's all changed, but we're only 5 minutes into qualifying as Vestante accelerating through turn 5. That's the parabolic of the long back straight on towards the hairpin. Now here is another look as he just slithered out wide onto the AstroTurf, and sections of this Hockenheimring circuit are very much of the old school, and particularly the stadium section, that the layout and the runoff unchanged for several decades now, and it does give the drivers a little bit more of a challenge than particularly in terms of runoff, say, compared to Paul Ricard, although nothing compared to last weekend's in Pau.
Yes, Pau, you had barriers lining every single corner, and with the weather we had there as well, there was absolutely no margin for error. And another story that went told during the race, but Billy Munger actually hit the barriers during the race and had bent steering for the second half. So an incredible job that he managed to bring the car home on track and in one piece.
Meanwhile, Yuki Tsunoda is on a good lap, as is Marino Sato, his compatriot and teammate. We follow Tsunoda as he swings through the Mobile 1 turn on towards the Sachs curve. This into the third and final sector then of the lap, and Marino Sato, his time of 1 minute 32.944, and that puts him fastest at the moment by just over a tenth of a second from Lucas Dunn, as Tsunoda accelerates out of the final couple of turns, and along the start and finish straight across the line he goes quickest at 1 minute 32.6.
Motor Park looked very quick in the first sector, which is consisting of our first two long straights. But it's interesting to see the second sector, because that's combining both a long straight and the first segment of twisting corners, which is probably a better gauge of overall pace here.
And when we talk about setup and the dilemma, the thing to really watch for is the wing angles on the front and rear wing, because they are adjustable by the teams and drivers to their liking. And essentially, the more angle that you've got on the wing, then the more grip the car has got through the corners, but essentially it's less slippery on the straights. Whereas if you've got a flatter wing profile, it means the car goes along the straights a bit more quickly, but you have to ask more of the tyres through the corner, and that can make the car a handful to drive. It also, over the course of the race, can possibly mean that you are beginning to lose out on grip a little bit later on.
And having a lower wing angle also helps with the slipstream here. And Teo Martin Motorsport used this to their advantage yesterday. Second free practice, I believe, Lucas Dunner gave his teammate Aldo Festante a tow down the back straight, and that did help him set the fast time. Marino Sato, I believe, just moved past Tsunoda. So Motor Park are 1-2-3 at the moment.
Yeah, Liam Lawson is who's gone quickest at 1 minute 32.4 on his last lap. We watch the New Zealand driver now as he tips through the incredibly tight hairpin at turn 6 and then gets on the power as early as possible, as Christian Hahn bobs up into 4th position, leading the Carlin charge. And Lawson, the first sector very short, it's only 20 seconds or so, coming towards the end of the second sector before too long. That's going to be worth watching for.
We can take an estimate of who's running the slippiest wing angles at the moment, because we've both got Hahn, Jack Doohan and Callum Williams, who have hit 235.2 miles an hour, or kilometres an hour, in the speed trap, which would suggest they've either got a tow or they're running very slippery in a straight line. I'm
going to venture a guess that's kilometres an hour, because otherwise there'd be the Indianapolis 500, but that is still very, very quick. 237 kilometres an hour just now from Cameron Das, and that is really going some. And although the Hockenheim circuit is not as fast as it once was, it is still a very, very quick challenge for the drivers.
And because of the speed, we also have two very heavy hairpins. You're also going to find traffic can be an issue here. We did see Billy Munger trying to get out of the way of Yuki Tsunoda's car there. And it's definitely a problem later on in the lap, where you have turn 8 and turn 6, where you have long straights, and drivers who aren't on a quick lap possibly could get in the way.
So what's interesting is that once more it's Team Motorpark who are currently occupying the top 3 places in the order, but we would anticipate, based on free practice yesterday, that may get shaken up a little bit as Yuki Tsunoda crosses the line. couple of tenths adrift of his best. Both Linus Lundqvist and Jack Doohan have posted improvements for Double R. They have gone into 5th and 6th respectively.
Yes, and 2 of the Teo Martin cars are already back in the pits. And I am wondering if they're already making changes as they did in free practice. It went very quick early on, went back into the pits quite a while, and then came out and set very strong late pace. Different strategies used by different teams here. So we could see a lot of the cars coming in about 2 minutes time, sitting in the pits for a few more minutes, then going super quick in the last few minutes of the session.
Of course, to explain the format for the Euroformula Open race weekend, if you're unfamiliar with it, today's qualifying session sets the grid for today's race only, so it is just the driver's best time that matters from this 25 minutes. They don't need a second fastest time for tomorrow or whatever it might be, as a few adjustments going on in the cockpit of Billy Munger's car. They've also got their allocation of Michelin tyres to manage for the weekend, so there might be a couple of them who've gone out on some older tyres, get sighted for the morning, and then looking to press on a little bit later on in the session. In fact, we've got about half the field currently in the pits, including Liam Lawson.
Lawson and his Motorpark teammates have actually been the slowest in the speed trap so far by over 3 kilometres per hour.
And we just saw a glimpse there of some adjustments on the front wing of Lawson's car, so you're probably not the only person who's clocked that, Elliot, and maybe they're looking at trying something a little bit different. And it looks also like it's going to be a brand new set of tyres as well, bolted on to Lawson's car, as pretty much the entirety of the field now peeling into the pit lane. And we didn't really see this strategy at Paul Ricard when we had cars circulating all the way through qualifying, but clearly the teams this morning going out, doing a couple of laps, coming in, checking the setup, thinking about new tyres, and it's going to make the last 8 or 9 minutes or so of this session really exciting.
Yes, Paul Ricard is a very long track and has a lot of long straights compared to Hockenheim, so it did require a very different approach on the teams. But we do have similar temperatures here to Paul Ricard, and it'll be interesting to see how long the rubber, what the peak grip the rubber is, and if you have to warm them up for a few laps before you can put in your best time.
Like Yard, another driver in the pits, and he had adventures along the way. I think it's fairly safe to say in Poe. Runner-up in the second race and a fairly substantial accident in race 1.
Yes, he joined his teammate Billy Munger in pitting at the end of the warm-up lap for wet tyres, and that did propel him up the order because of the wet weather. But he did struggle with pace overall, and Carlin and several other teams on the grid did a sterling job in getting their cars repaired in the middle of sessions after drivers had crashes to get them back on track.
But also, it's proof as well that Euroformula Open Racing, it's not just the drivers who are looking to move up the ladder. There's going to be engineers on the pit wall calling race strategy, making gambles, for whom it will also come into play. As into the pit lane now comes Callum Williams. You can't see that, we can, as our commentary box today actually affords us a really fine view over large swathes of the circuit. Aldo Festante has just emerged from the pit lane, and he is en route, as is Rui Andrade. Tepe Nattori having a little bit of work undertaken on his car as well. All the while, of course, while they're in the pit lane, the clock continues to tick downward.
One thing we did see from Carlin during free practice is they were very quick early on in the sessions, but after making their changes and going out in the second runs, they didn't actually improve on their earlier times. So they likely have worked overnight to sort this problem out. But looking at the speed trap figures, they're also one of the teams that has very disproportionate compared to their lap time.
So everybody in the pit lane getting ready to go as the Carlin Armada peels out into the pit lane. And this also is really some adjustments there to the rear of Lucas Dunn's car. I just wondered whether he's adjusted his rear anti-roll bars or something with the cowling coming off, because that's what they have to do to get into that in there to make that adjustment. Is now for the drivers, it really is about that full focus on the qualifying lap. They've had a little breather in the pit lane, a chance to think about what they could do differently, and now they really need to push. Samar waiting to re-emerge, and this, as you said, Elliot, is where the traffic might start to come to the fore a little bit, because we're going to have several drivers on out laps while others are just hitting the sweet spot with their new tyres and looking to push for a time. Rui Andrade and Aldo Festante amongst them, and for a Formula One circuit, this Hockenheim lap is actually relatively short for these cars, just 90 seconds.
Yes, it's a very quick lap, and as Jack Doohan, our free practice pace setter yesterday, described to me, he said if you make a mistake early in the lap, that can compromise the rest of your lap because it's so short and the corners do flow into each other. So you have to be very on the limit, precision driving, almost like Poe in some aspects, although you've obviously got a lot more greenery in the Rhine Valley in the background here.
And Turman in particular, we've not seen much of it during our coverage of qualifying so far, but that is a really tricky corner to get right. Requires a lot of commitment, sets you up for the run on towards turn 2, could ruin your lap. And we had a couple of spins yesterday in free practice there as Festante backing himself into a little bit of clear air.
Interesting technique by Festante there, because he did set his best times using slipstreams yesterday, so wondering if he's maybe waiting for another driver to come past him.
He's going to have quite a long wait. He's really taking his time here for Stante, and I think you might well be right, Elliot. He's coming down towards the stadium section now at almost walking pace. Here he comes into towards the Sachs curve now, and he maybe is gearing himself up for a lap in completely clear air without a tow, but
did we see Festante change his tyres when he went into the pits? Because he may be on the same set of tyres and he's already got heat into them.
Yeah, it's a good call actually, because it normally takes a couple of laps to get the warmth into that Michelin tyre, and now Festante goes for it through turn 1, out over the curb, and then up towards turn 2. And yeah, just looking at the rubber there's a little bit of visible graining on it, which suggests it's not a brand new set of Michelins. But because they got the allocation for the weekend, of course, Teo Martin Motorsport might feel they've got a good enough base setting with Aldo Festante's car. If he can qualify in the top 10, then he can progress on new tyres in the race.
Yeah, it could do. And with free cars, you can obviously try different setups across the free. And while Festante's on track, he's just had Jack Doohan behind him now. There's a little confusion there between the two.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Doohan quite clocked whether or not Festante was on a flying lap or not, and Festante caught him at the one point of the circuit. He wanted a pure racing line, and although he's a couple of tenths off through sector 1, he's going to be a fair bit further adrift through sector 2, I'd venture.
Although that is fast for an out lap, for an opening lap on a run, just 2 tenths off the fastest first sector at the moment. It's quite good. Going through the final corner, we do have 5-6 cars right now where traffic will be an issue.
And Guilherme Samaya is one of them. Tepe Notori, another, as Festante again pulling his usual trick at the Sachs curve out over the curbs and the AstroTurf as he navigates the last couple of corners. He is going to have a clear-ish run. His next target on track is going to be Marino Sato. Whether or not he'll catch the Japanese driver, we will find out.
This may have been a strategy masterclass from Aldo Festante here.
We will find out. It's coming towards the end of his first sector, and it is his best sector of the session thus far. So it could be working out very nicely for him. Marino Sato is on kind of his second lap of the run, so he'll be looking for a flying lap next time around. Festante might just benefit from a little tow coming out of the hairpin, so he's fractionally up through sector 1. Marino Sato shows no desire to tow one of his rivals around, jumps aside.
We're waiting for the sector 2 time for Festante here. This is a very interesting strategy. We don't normally see this in junior single-seater racing, this kind of complexity and difference in strategies.
It's quite good fun to see, isn't it? As he's well up now, Aldo Festante. So this is going to pitch him, I would suggest, into about a 1 minute 32.5. So it's not quite going to be the quickest lap of the session, but it's not going to be a bad effort. Nonetheless, we might creep a little bit further forward than that as he swings through the final couple of turns, accelerates on his way, and this has been a very good lap from the Teo Martin Motorsport driver, who goes third with a 1 minute 32.6. Team watch on from the monitors. Christian Hahn, another driver who is on a decent lap at the moment.
second, we have Callum Williams, who's overtaken his Fortec Motorsports teammate speed trap figure, 239.4 now. It's a huge number.
Cameron Lucas Dunner also on a good lap 2, and Dunner for Teo Marti Motorsport trying to fly. Here's Christian Hahn then picking up his lap, and Hahn, well, he was well in amongst traffic actually with his Carlin teammates through sector 2. He's still up a little bit on himself, and he was 6th, 1 minute 32.8 for Christian Hahn. Accelerates over the line now, and that's 1 minute 32.6, so he remains in 6th. He just improves his time fractionally.
And teammate Nicolo Shargaard, and we've seen a replay of his little wobble there. In free practice yesterday, he had a similar issue where I believe teammate Tepe Natori was in front of him. Hahn went off track and he actually damaged the underside of his car and spent the rest of the session in the pits.
Well, this is phenomenally close this session. We've got the top 10 covered by about half a second as Marino Sato is on a good lap. Aldo Fastante also on a good lap as well. Team Motorpark watch from the pit box. Liam Lawson now out into a bit of a flyer as well, as Linus Lundqvist goes second, 1 minute 32.5 for Lundqvist for Double R Racing, but it's Marino Sato who is flying. He is the man at the front of your picture now.
And we watch the Double R Racing cars too, because they didn't lead the sessions in free practice until the very last minutes. We're seeing some good sector time from Jack Doohan at the moment.
So Sato is fastest to 132.1, 2 tenths up on Liam Lawson in second. Jack Doohan's gone third. Linus Lundqvist into fourth. Yuki Tsunoda in fifth. Aldo Fastante in sixth. They're all covered by just 4 tenths of a second. As Marino Sato looking for further improvement.
Yeah, you're wondering if Fastante may have used up the most of his tyres now, because obviously the cars won't have time to pit again. We've only got 3 minutes left of this session.
The driver we really want to see is Lucas Dunner, who is down in 13th, the driver who is third in the championship.
He's just jumped to 9th. He's at 1 minute 32.709, so he's still half a second off first place. We have 8 tenths covering the top 13 cars. Huge, very small margins here.
Tiny, tiny margins as Sato and Lawson are having good one. Well, Sato was, he's not anymore. Here comes Liam Lawson across the line and goes quickest, a 1 minute 32.0 for Liam Lawson. Yuki Tsunoda, meanwhile, bobs up into third, and Team Motorpark again having a strong end to the session, but Jack Doohan and Linus Lundqvist are also both on good laps.
I believe all but 2 drivers just set their personal best on the last lap though, so there's a lot of change in the order. We'll try to update you on it. So we have Tsunoda in third behind Lawson Sato, Lundqvist fourth, Doohan fifth, Christian Hahn just jumped up to 6th. Oh, and Jack Doohan's just gone for quickest, another personal best in the last sector, 1:31.984. I believe that is our first lap in the 1 minute 31s all weekend.
It is, so Doohan breaks the 1 minute 32 second barrier, goes into provisional pole position, and there is only now a fraction over a lap time left in the session. So most drivers will be starting their last lap, and Marino Sato is on a good one once more. He's had a little bit of traffic in the form of Guilherme Samaya, possibly to navigate. And there in the background of the shot is Jack Doohan. He's closing up onto Rui Andrade. Yuki Tsunoda having another strong lap as well. Here is Marino Sato. Sato into clear air, coming towards the end of the second sector, and he's up by just a 1/10 of a second in towards the Sachs curve now. Brakes desperately late.
And Liam Lawson's just improved on his best time, but he's still behind Jack Doohan. 0.039 seconds separate the pair now.
And Doohan's not on an improvement on this occasion either. So Doohan may just have one more roll of the dice if he can get across the line in time. Here comes Sato, meanwhile, who breaks the timing beam now and takes pole position by 7/100ths of a second, a 1 minute 31.908 for Marino Sato. He moves into provisional pole, 20 seconds left in the session.
And I believe Jack Doohan was slow on that last lap because he's setting himself up for a pole run on the final lap of the race, final lap of qualifying, sorry. There's only 10 seconds left, so this will be his final flying lap.
And he's just crept past in time as well. So has he saved the best to last? So it's Sato from Doohan, Lawson and Sonoda as the flag comes out. Linus Lundqvist is 5th. Julian Hanses in 6th. Liam Lawson looking to try and fashion some sort of an improvement. He's not up through the second sector, so there's possibly nothing doing. Jack Doohan, meanwhile, is also not up through sector 1 either. He's a couple of tenths adrift of where Lawson was. It's the field coming through to take the flag.
We have the 2 Red Bull cars coming, and one's come into the pits. I believe that may be Sonoda.
It is Liam Lawson who has abandoned the lap. So Sonoda comes across line, Lawson into the pits. So Sonoda and Lawson do not make improvements. Tepe Notori is looking for an improvement. Notori comes past us and doesn't improve. Jack Doohan looking unlikely to improve.
And there was traffic at the very final corner there for one of the Teo Martin cars. There's someone going into the pits. That is number 51, that's Vestante.
So Vestante through, and it's possibly Jack Doohan, who, no, it's one of the motor park cars that's in the pit lane and going through very, very slowly. And it's going to be, it would appear, no last gasp heroics. Julian Hanses trying to wrestle something from 6th position, and he doesn't. And Jack Doohan has come through, also doesn't improve. So it is going to be Marino Sato who takes pole position for the 5th race of the 2019 Euroformula Open season. 76 thousandths of a second clear of Jack Doohan. Liam Lawson then into 3rd. Yuki Tsunoda in 4th. Ahead of Linus Lundqvist and Julian Hanses. Christian Hahn then in 7th. A very, very close session indeed. The top 14 covered by just under a second. Tiny, tiny margins to play with.
Saw very different strategies with the teams there in that qualifying session as well. And it looks like Motorpark got their strategy correct. And Teo Martin Motorsport, which we thought were playing a strategic blinder in the middle of the session, actually fell down the order.
They did. Their best car finished in 8th in the hands of Aldo Festante. As we have a look then at the classification. Sato in pole from Jack Doohan. Then Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda, the Red Bull Juniors, on row 2. Linus Lundqvist rounding out a good session of Double R in 5th. Head of Julian Hanses. Christian Hahn leads the Carlin charge in 7th. Head of Aldo Festante. Lucas Dunner, plenty to do from 9th, with Cameron Dass, the top Fortec man, rounding out the top 10. It's Tepe Notori in 11th from Callum Williams. Then Nikolai Kiergaard in 13th and Guilherme Samar 14th. Billy Munger in 15th ahead of Rui Andrade. The race gets underway just about 3:30 Central European time this afternoon. Make sure you join us for that because it promises to be a very good one indeed. Until then, it's goodbye from Elliot Wood and Ben Evans in Hockenheim.